everybody. Welcome to the Snow West Show. I'm Ryan Harris. Real quick before we get into this episode, the Snow West Show is made possible thanks to Polaris Snowmobiles. The Polaris Gift the Outdoor Holiday Sales Event is going on right now. Find the perfect gift for your loved one or for a Polaris fanatic with offers up to $3,000 off on select mountain sleds at your local Polaris dealer. Also, right now, you can take $50 off $250 purchase or $150 off a $750 purchase on all parts, accessories, and gear during the Gift the Outdoors Holiday Sales Event. Go see your local Polaris dealer to gear up for this upcoming riding season. Also sponsoring the show is 320 Guest Ranch, located in Big Sky, Montana, only 5 minutes away from Buck Ridge and Carrot Basin. 320 Guest Ranch offers lodging and accommodations for your next snowmobiling trip. Single cabins, large cabins. These full cabins have kitchens available. Check it out at 320ranch.com. Thanks also to Fly Racing for sponsoring the show and helping us bring this content to you. Fly Racing is the #1 gear brand in Supercross and Motocross, and they bring that same product innovation to snowmobiling. Whether it's monosuits, helmets, boots, gloves, goggles, Fly Racing has got you covered for your snowmobiling gear head to toe. Check them out at flyracing.com or at Fly Racing Snow on socials. And thanks to Deviant Ink for supporting the show. Head on over to deviantink.com, check out their custom wrap builder with their new interactive design tools that make designing and customizing wraps super easy. Their new colorizer tool randomizes color combinations until you land on the look that you love. Then you can try the design mixer tool to see all the Deviant Ink designs in the colors that you've selected. Check that out more at deviantink.com. Thanks for being a listener. Now on to the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Snow West Show. I'm your host, Ryan Harris. We are here today with, we've got a couple guests on the line, and in the studio here with me is Justin Stevens, Snow West test rider, helps us out on the Snow West podcast quite frequently. And on the line today, we have two Skidoo ambassadors. I'll introduce them in just a second. So last month in September, is it November yet? No, it's still October. I can still say last month. Man, it's going fast. Last month, Skidoo invited us out to Valcourt, which is the hometown of Skidoo, which is where the factory, Skidoo's factory is. Nice. And took us out to tour the factory. So we walked through the plant, and we've got a little video rolling in the background of some of that. But they also took us through the Design Innovation Center. They took us through the Skidoo Race Shop. I mean, all this is in Valcourt.
That's cool.
Took us through the museum. I mean, the Skidoo headquarters where the engineers all work at it. It was overwhelming to say the least.
Yeah.
It was mind blowing. so much to take in a couple days. But these two Skidoo ambassadors, Nadine Overwater and Jeremy Mercier, were along for that trip as well. So
nice. We're
gonna have them jump on here. Nadine, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Good to have you on the show. What's new up in your land?
Well, snowline is creeping down here in Revelstoke, so everyone's getting hyped for the winter, and we slowly wait and do our snow dance.
So when you've got a little bit of snow up high, is that just a dusting, or is it significant yet?
Yeah, it's still just a dusting, not enough to go riding.
All right, not like this guy, Jeremy Mercier. You rode your snowmobile today, didn't you?
I rode it twice actually yesterday, Ryan.
Oh my gosh, get off the phone.
Yeah. I rode my new 2025 for a little bit, and then I broke out my vintage sled and rode that around for a little bit.
Boy. Oh, wow, I'm jealous. How much snow are we talking?
8 inches at the house. I was just ripping around on the roads. Nothing off trail. Just squeezing the trigger enough to just feel it again,
That's about 8 inches, about 12 inches more than we have around here, for sure.
You're negative there, huh?
Yeah, we got a long ways to go before we start looking like winter. But so you guys, we had a little bit different schedule, Nadine and Jeremy. You toured the factory, right? Let's start off with the factory. Is this your first time going through the Skidoo factory in Valcourt?
Well, I am a lucky girl. It's actually the second time I've got to see the factory. So,
okay. When's the first time you went through, Nadine? How long was that been?
It would have been when I first came onto the ambassador team, so 4 years ago.
Okay, and then Jeremy, is this your second time as well?
It is my second time as well. I've been to the factory, but it was my first time to the Design and Innovation building.
This was my very first time to Valcourt. It was my second time to Quebec, and first time to Quebec was also this. Am I saying it right, Quebec?
Yeah, I think so. Quebec.
Sounds good.
I don't
Quebec.
We'll just say throw a little item.
I think it's just not Quebec.
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 Is there a W in there? Quebec?
No, but there's a U. So.
Yeah, Valcourt, Quebec. And so this was my first time out there this year. We rode in February, went out and did a winter event and rode snowmobiles up a little north of Montreal. And then September, we went out there. A beautiful place. It was different than what I was expecting. It's a very small town, almost completely supported by the Skidoo factory. I would guess the majority of the people there in town and in the surrounding communities are BRP employees.
Involved in some way or another.
Would you say that, Jeremy?
Oh, absolutely. There's really nothing there except for the factory, except for the best poutine restaurant in the world.
Is that the one we had lunch at?
Yes.
Oh, that was good. Holy cow. I had poutine 4 meals in a row.
Did you? At the same restaurant?
No.
Just different ones.
Different restaurants. I was just like, man, when in Rome, might as well, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was
pretty.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
It was pretty funny sitting at that table and seeing all the piles of poutine everyone ordered. And I don't think anyone spoke for like the first 6 minutes while we got started. We were just all chowing down, and all of a sudden you got like halfway through your plate and like, oh my God, what am I doing?
It's a sneaky meal. Like you're just looking at it and you're like, oh, this is just a side of fries. No big deal.
Yeah. A little topping. Right?
And all of a sudden you can't move.
Yeah.
Is it the same on the western side of Canada, Nadine?
We have poutine, but it's like gravy and cheese, not like the authentic poutine sauce. And yeah, I'm still full from that meal, to be honest.
I got to figure out how to make that stuff. But yeah, so we roll into Valcourt, and I'm with Steve Cowing on the morning of the first day we were there. I can't remember where you guys were, but we drove in. We got there 45 minutes early, so we took a little tour of Valcourt, which took about 45 seconds. And he took us out to the north end of town where there's like an outdoor test track and all that. And then brought us back in, took us by the headquarters, pointed out the museum. But the Skidoo factory is enormous. I mean, it's bigger than I expected. When Nadine and Jeremy went
is it like what you would have thought, or like what did you have in mind, or what did you think it was going to be like?
I don't know what I necessarily had in mind, but it was different.
Yeah.
It was I was probably imagining a little bit smaller and fewer people. Like okay, BRP, you know, they're building Can-Am, they're building Skidoo, but this is just the Skidoo factory. Yeah. So how many people could be there?
Right.
And a lot of people. Well,
50
times 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were a couple thousand people there between the factory
and
then the engineering teams and just the corporate teams. Jeremy, Nadine, when you first showed up 4 years ago and toward the plant, what was it like compared to what you were expecting?
Yeah, I don't really know if I had any expectations. It's pretty cool. Obviously, you need a big staff to build that many machines, but just having like the security measures and how many doors and how easy it is to get lost in there, and then once you're inside, just seeing how much of a well-oiled machine it is, and like, you know, the technology on the production line, and just like it blew my mind to see how a sled can move through. Like, it moves through a huge tract of land as it's getting built, and it's getting all the right parts put on, and you know, they're putting together like 3 or 4 different models at a time. So you'd see like one of the Ace turbos, and then followed by one of the Summit models, and then like, you know, I just was overwhelmed at how organized it was, and quickly it happened, and you can just watch a sled get built from bottom up.
It's funny you mentioned the security there. My wife and I toured the CIA a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
That was easier to get into.
Yeah.
That was a quicker process.
Yeah.
No, it was a lot of fun though. Jeremy, what stood out to you in the factory? Like what is the first trip, second trip? What really jumps out to you?
Kind of like what Nadine just said, how well orchestrated it all is. Like, you walk in and it's just, the building's massive. And my first year we walked in where they had these huge sheets of aluminum, like up on a shelf, and a robot was grabbing that, handing it to another robot. And all I could think about was like, who designed all this? It's just mind blowing to think that someone out there is designing this and taking care of this on a daily basis. And that's for one sled. Skidoo makes several snowmobiles, so to like manage all those parts and just how smoothly it runs just blew my mind.
Yeah, we're looking at a video here. So you two can't see this, but I've got all my video clips from my plant tour going on a loop in here. And there's a robot that drives the parts around to all the different stations. So I asked when I was in there how many parts they keep stashed right there, and they have 2 days worth of parts inventory right there inside the plant. And then there's another totally different team that manages the parts supply on the back end of that. So there's never a point where, oh, we got to shut down, we got to go find these parts and get them brought in here. There's constantly this flow of parts being brought over on carts, and everything is tagged with QR codes or whatever you want to call them to match the VIN number. So it all lands at the same point on the same part of the line. And
yeah, it's wild.
And
So-
the other cool thing I saw in there was also like how they built the factory off the old original factory. Like when you're in there, they have that big brick wall along the one side. I don't know if you remember it, but I thought that's pretty neat to just see like how it's grown, but they still have like the original roots of the building there.
Yeah, and so the inventor of Skidoo, Joseph, right? Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Joseph.
he starts out. Oh man, I didn't do my dates on this stuff super good, but 1920s, if I'm thinking right, trying to figure out, okay, how do I get a car to go over the snow?
Oh,
And so he spent the first several years of his inventing years, like I guess, trying to figure out how to make a car, how to convert like a Model T to go over the snow. Put skis on it,
yeah.
put another axle on it, put tracks over the wheels. That eventually led to him what he's really famous for. One of the things he's famous for is the vulcanized sprocket, creating a sprocket that drives the track, extrovert drive on the track on these tires. And then from there, he wanted to go create this dedicated snowmobile, which was an enclosed car, but not a Model T Ford converted to
Right.
snow. But yeah, just so that heritage of where he originally started building those vehicles is the same building.
In the old building. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, like Nadine was saying, they took us outside, and one of these slides shows it. There's a back wall to part of the factory. It's a brick wall, and it has the old Bombardier sign on there. That's really fascinating. And then the museum. I'm jumping way ahead. I'm all over the place here.
Yeah.
It's okay, Ryan.
The museum, half of the museum is his original garage.
Oh, wow.
That the community came together and they all helped to build this wooden garage, and it still stands.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's
so
where
cool.
he started out building all this stuff. Yeah, really cool. And then you look at that, and you got robots helping robots. It's all designed to help humans. The humans that's what I really like. That's what stood out to me, is that it's still humans putting things together. It's just assisted by robots and automation in every possible way to make their process easier. But now, so Skidoo owns Rotax, so all of these engines are fully assembled in
and shipped in.
yeah, over in is it Austria or Germany now? I think
Austria.
Yeah.
Is it still in Austria? Okay. Engines, so like you take an 850 E-Tech Turbo R, that turboed engine is completely assembled in Austria, created, put it in a box, shipped over here.
And then final assembly into the unit here.
Yeah. So Nadine, you know the process. They build these sleds in 3 different modules.
Oh God, do I know? Okay. Is this a question?
Pop quiz.
Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember. They build the machine in 3 modules. The S module, which is the bulkhead and the front A arms and the nose pieces, and the engine module, which is the center of the frame, the overstructure and the engine, and then the tunnel module. Does this sound familiar to anybody, or am I just pulling this out?
Yeah, no, you're spot on, Ryan. I remember one machine in particular that like bolted the front of the snowmobile to the tunnel, and then there was another machine that did like kind of the assembly of the front end, and they were kind of all down the same line. I do remember that pretty well. So I don't remember if it was 3 or 4 steps, to be honest, though.
Well, I have written in my notes there were 3. There's 3 modules: S module, E module, and I want to say tunnel or suspension module. But so the tunnel, you have the tunnel being stamped and then powder coated, and then once they pull a tunnel off of that rack right there,
Yeah.
it goes over to this dude right here, right there. And that machine that's hanging there with all that,
Yeah.
that comes down and that stamps the VIN number on it. So that barcode on the running board has predetermined that tunnel is going to become this snowmobile. So that he scans that code, it tells that machine,
And then
go
stamps it.
print this VIN number on there. And then on the other side of the warehouse, the overstructure, the engine, the pyramid frame, all that is being assembled. The front end is being assembled. And then those three things, those three different components or modules of one snowmobile travel through the factory on those little robots right there.
Yeah.
And then they meet. And then tunnel gets assembled to the engine structure. The S module gets assembled on there. And you go from 3 modules to a snowmobile in a matter of minutes.
It is pretty. It's like Jeremy said, like just like who figured all of that out? Like even the machine that drops down and stamps the VIN number. I mean, it looks simple, but extremely complicated at the same time. Like somebody had to figure out like how that functions, how that input goes in, and I don't know. That's pretty incredible. The amount of time that's gone into making that just a seamless process.
So go
time.
back to the question you asked a minute ago. What did I expect?
Yeah.
Have you seen Ford versus Ferrari?
Yeah.
When the Ford execs go to Europe and then
Yeah.
they walk into the Ferrari factory.
Yeah.
And it's this guy builds our engines. This guy puts the seats in the car. This guy puts the doors together. That's what I was
Right.
expecting probably.
And is this just the snowmobile factory?
Mhm.
That's not side by sides and all that. That was there on site.
No,
or-
I believe it does.
They
all
do
DRP.
spiders there as well.
Okay,
Spiders, okay. So some Can-Am,
Yep.
but all snowmobiles come out of here.
that's crazy.
But like
Yep.
you can see in the video, there's free rides being built, there's MXZs being built, and there's utility or touring being built all at the same time.
That's
So
amazing.
So one free ride, one MXZ, one touring, so that a dealer isn't getting, his door banged down by people that want their free ride. Well, that free ride isn't scheduled to build till December 1st or whatever. They spread them out.
And that's the part that blew me away, just having all those parts for all those different types of snowmobiles. That's just wild,
Yeah. Yeah, to think through, like you have to develop all the individual parts, so those will have to be fabricated and built somewhere and then brought into this location where they're assembled perfectly. That's pretty impressive. Kind of like we talked about this last week, talking about maybe having issues with snowmobiles once in a while. If you think about how complicated actually taking a snowmobile from an idea to a finished product is, it's a lot more complicated than it used to be maybe,
Well,
20 or 30 years ago even.
and that's a good point, because the computerized control over all of the components eliminates accidentally putting this part on the wrong machine or forgetting to put this part on. That part's gone. So
probably keeps the tolerances all within a certain amount, whether it be a bolt that's getting tightened or anything else. I'm sure that's all. That's awesome.
yeah,
Do you remember like how many sleds they pump out in one day? Was it like 300 or 400?
It was 400 plus when we asked that question.
Yeah.
Nadine. I want to say you said 458 today or something like that. That was their goal.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah, the efficiency to do that, and like you're talking about, just to have all those parts constantly being fed.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say there's 2 days worth of parts, I mean, somebody had to build those 2 days worth of parts, have them delivered on time, sitting there
so there's
ready to go. So you never have a delay.
900 snowmobiles worth of parts
Yeah.
ready to go at that factory with stuff being
Daily.
trucked in probably
Daily.
Yeah.
There's literally trucks driving around that factory like nonstop, in and out all day long. I don't think it ever stops.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I believe
Impressive.
Nadine, along with that, I think they said there were 2,000 employees in the factory.
Yeah.
And so here's another thing that stood out. They treat those employees like family.
Really, that's awesome.
They take really good care of those people.
That's awesome. Are most of the parts that you say they bring in, are those outsourced, do you think, to some degree, or is it mostly everything's built kind of in-house, or did they go over that at all? Or
I think it's like anything automotive. You outsource things, you
certain
contract
things,
out
some of the
to supply
plastics,
chains.
things like that. So, yeah.
Some of it is done in-house, but I think they form their tunnels in-house, they extrude their aluminum in-house, they build their rails in-house.
Well, so speaking of employees, I mean, Skidoo seems like they've always been very accessible. Like I love when we go to snowshoot and other things, we're always able to talk to them, ask them questions. They're always asking us questions. But who did you get to meet in the factory, or is there anybody that like who are some of the people that you got access to?
Well,
there?
the plant manager, Marie Jose, is that her name? Does that sound right? Jeremy?
We didn't meet her actually.
Oh, okay. I got the different tour.
Oh.
She is the manager over the entire plant, and her office is like right there, like glass windows on two walls, and she sits there and she can oversee the entire thing. And she was fantastic, super personable. Just enjoys her job, enjoys managing all of this,
awesome.
which I could churn out maybe a snowmobile a week and we'd probably have a 50% screw up rate, like failure rate. She's on top of her game.
That's awesome.
I thought it was cool later on, Jeremy and Nadine, when we were back near Fred's office at headquarters in that big conference room, and they brought in the whole engineering team leaders. Now, this is not the whole engineering team. This is just each department head.
Yeah.
And that was 50 people.
Oh, wow.
Was it not?
Yeah, it was a lot of people. I was going to say at least 50 people, Ryan. It was kind of overwhelming when we walked into that door, to be honest.
You're thinking you're going to meet the engineering team. You're thinking 3 people, and there's 50 people.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're just a leader of a team. So
that's crazy.
It was a lot. It is crazy.
Nadine, what are some of the independent teams that you recall?
That we went through? Well, one of the big standouts, Jeremy already mentioned it, but we got to go into the design and innovation lab, which I've never got to do before, and apparently is like really difficult to get in. Like a lot of the staff don't even get in there. That was a really cool team to see at work behind the scenes. The engineering team always, because those guys are so curious about our input, and they live out east, so it's really cool. They're really interested in mountain riding and what's going to make these machines better. The management, obviously we met up with like the marketing and media teams. It's a big company.
That's awesome.
That Design Innovation Center was wild.
That's probably one of your favorite parts of the tour.
Yeah, and they have several. They have several worldwide, and some of them work on Sea-Doo, some work on Can-Am, some work on Can-Am's electric motorcycles. They're constantly developing projects, but like Nadine was saying, this isn't something that people get to go in and look, because they're talking about a lot of future development,
right? And
a lot of conceptual stuff, and they have models, like crazy models, like a spider with tracks on it, type thing. Just
how far down the road do you think they're looking?
Those
years,
people
8
are
years?
Probably 10 years ahead.
Yeah.
What would you guess, Nadine?
Definitely 10 years ahead. But even like some of the things they've developed in the past that just were ahead of their time that didn't ever get released, you got to see a lot of really cool stuff that who knows if it will ever come to fruition or not. But a lot of work gone behind the scenes.
They talked about that, like they design things 20 years out, and they're kind of waiting for the technology to be there to actually be able to build it, which was super cool to hear. So I think the 10-year thing is probably pretty realistic, but I think there's certain things that are they're thinking even further out.
Even farther. Well, you would have to. I remember even when we developed a jacket, I mean, you'd always have to think a year or two ahead of time. You could never think in the current year, but you kind of get lost in time just a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm sure those guys are like, wait, you guys are still developing these old sleds. I'm already thinking 10 years down the road. It's probably an interesting job to work.
I'm trying to think of there was a specific thing, like Nadine, you triggered this memory, because they were talking about how the designers have solutions to problems that technology won't support.
Really?
So then they were talking about this material, and I can't remember what it was, but it was just a material that didn't exist 10 years ago that exists now, and then all of a sudden that allows this new design to be implemented.
But, you'd be dreaming big, I guess, right?
These are the dreaming type of guys,
right?
And guys and girls.
They're dreaming beyond even what we currently have available at our disposal. So
Yeah, because if I asked you, what would you take this Gen 5, this 2025 Gen 5, what would you do to make it better?
well, I know every time we go to the meetings with the Skidoo guys at Snowshoot, they always ask us that question. You're like, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of it's a tough question. Yeah, because you're like, I don't know. You guys we just rode some of the most innovative, most amazing sleds that we've ever ridden. Like, what else would you do? It's a tough question, you know.
Yeah, but and this is the team that comes up with that.
That's cool.
Based on outside feed. Would you say, Jeremy, that the design team works very closely with the engineering team?
Oh, extremely close. Absolutely.
And then they bring in marketing as well. So you kind of have all three. You have production, design, engineering, like those three legs of the stool all work together.
Yeah, you'd have
really
to,
because they're in the same building. They're in the
yeah.
same area, and so they're constantly. Design is able to step into the factory and see how things are going and offer up. Because everybody thinks differently. These guys have the big ideas, the wild ideas. Maybe that's where some of this stuff came from.
Yeah. Well, when I think of Skidoo, I guess I've just always felt like their fit finish, like I guess I would be surprised by the sheer size of the factory, but I don't know that I'd be surprised by their organization or their ability to keep all parts working together, because that's what I feel like they've always been really good at. And for some reason, it just, every time I've seen a Skidoo, just the way that it shows up on the showroom floor, I mean, it looks very well done, start to finish. You don't ever see any areas that are just kind of like, well, we got pretty close and let's go with that. Let's just let it ride. You know, it's always very well done. So,
Nadine, do you think that? Oh, sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. It's just the clay modeling, to your point. Just the amount of time they spend perfecting like every little part shape of the snowmobile was just super cool to see. I forget how many hours they spent on it. Ryan, did you ever ask that question?
I did, but I don't think I wrote it down.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But a lot of time. Like we got to see the actual clay model. In fact, so that's the Design Innovation building. That orange building. Wow. So those are conceptual designs. Nobody else has been in that room other than employees. Like, this is the first time they've let an outside group like ours go into this room. And I mean, look at those. That's one of the original Gen 4 Summit concepts.
Nice.
I wish you guys could see what we're looking at. But it was that first meeting room that we went to in Design Innovation that had all the artwork on the wall. So that clay model, that's the original Gen 5 clay model.
Huh. That's crazy. That's awesome.
And they build it quarter scale to start, don't they?
I was going to say, it looks big. Yeah.
Go ahead, Nadine.
No, I was just saying, like, that's how, you know, for the hours it takes, it's like, that's kind of what I took away from it, watching those guys work, because it's between the engineers and the design team. You know, they have these big ideas. The engineers make the technology for it, and then it goes back to design to try and create every tiny piece of plastic to fit properly and fit all this stuff in and keep it, you know, still in a shape that's usable and maneuverable. And, like, you know, they're on their computers designing, like, all these stupid tiny little plastic pieces to hold the things together, and the bolts, and you know, and then back and forth. Does this work? Is this going to work on snow? And yeah, just hours and hours of staring at screens.
Yeah, and I mean, and then you think of it, that's from a design standpoint, but like you said, Nadine, everything has to work too. So the ergonomics, the way that it maneuvers, and how all those changes and new innovative ideas, how does that affect the actual rideability of the sled, or how it reacts to a rider's input? Like, I mean, there's so many moving parts there, aside from just making the plastics look cool or the design look cool.
Jeremy, tell Justin about the virtual reality room that they had there.
That was pretty wild. So, Justin, they basically had like a wooden seat and some handlebars on this metal structure. So it looked like nothing, and then you put these glasses on, goggles, and it turned it in. You were sitting on like a real motorcycle, and it was kind of trippy, to be honest with you. Like, it was like, wait a minute. All of a sudden, the motorcycle appears and you're sitting on it. What was super cool about that is you could feel the ergonomics. That's what they were doing. They were trying to figure out, okay, is the seat too high? The handlebar height, right?
Goodness.
And so yeah, it was cool. It was a fully finished motorcycle is what you saw, but everyone else just saw like a seat and some handlebars and some wood. That was it.
Huh.
Super cool.
And then on that
Interesting.
model, they can move like the footrests any direction they want. So you can visualize.
Like, are you comfortable visualizing how
Yeah.
you feel like you would sit
Exactly.
on the motorcycle looking out over the handlebars and the
And they're big on, does it just have the vibe? Does it feel cool? Does it sleek? Does it feel like a cool experience rather than engineering? We check all the boxes.
right?
Ryan, did you try that while you were there?
No, I didn't. I was watching Robin do it though, and I think you did it too, right? You put the headset on.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah.
No, I was there for a minute, and then I got ahead of the group and went and looked at the clay modeling for a while. That was really intriguing.
Yeah.
Nadine, go ahead.
No, I was just saying soon we won't even have to buy sleds or bikes. We can just buy the live virtually, and it will always be deep, deep POW.
Yeah. I don't know.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Never get stuck either.
Yeah, just hit the reset button. Well, like as far as what other things did impress you about the factory or the tour? Anything else that you can think of? That,
Well, going back to the way they take care of the people, Marie Jose, who was the plant manager, was, as we were walking through, and I'm taking this video. She's talking with all the employees, saying, "Hey, we're gonna do some video. These people are here from Snow West.
yeah,
We're gonna do some video. Are you cool with that?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then someone would be like, "Nah, I'd rather not." And we just wouldn't film that part, or we'd make sure that they weren't in it. And
interesting.
2,000 employees is a lot of people to manage.
Yeah,
The scheduled breaks were really cool. They had I think they had a 15-minute scheduled break, and you could grab your bag and walk out, go do whatever, or just sit right there in your spot and have a drink and just chill and talk about hockey, I'm guessing. be my assumption.
Obvious.
But everybody looked happy. Everybody looked happy, and I'm not happy. I'm not trying to paint like some rosy picture here. Just they were just
yeah,
happy to be there.
yeah,
You can tell when people
Good
are
work
like, "I hate my
environment,
job."
yeah.
You can tell that.
yeah,
Like you, every time I see you and you're in the middle of a big build,
yeah.
I can tell you hate your job until the close date comes.
Yeah, not all the time, but no, that's cool. Well, they're part of something pretty impressive, so that's really awesome.
And it was clean.
Super clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've toured some other
And-
engine plants.
Yeah, I was
stuff
wondering about
everywhere.
that. You've got the Skidoo plant. Have you toured? What other plants have you toured? Have you toured any other snowmobile?
Yeah, we toured
manufacturing
Arctic
facilities,
Cat's engine plant in St. Cloud.
Yeah.
Polaris's engine plant in, can't remember specifically where that one was. That was a while ago. I haven't been through like the factory in Thief River or
Yeah.
Roseau. So I can't really compare those to that. I've been around some Ford stuff. This is on par with like what Ford does. Like all the equipment is super high end. Everything is spotless. Every corner of the building is clean.
Well, that's impressive. Nadine or Jeremy, have you guys ever toured any other factories? Or
I did the Ford plant as a kid. I grew up in Michigan, so we'd go there like, I don't know, once every few years. My dad was super into it. And I would agree with Ryan. It's just on par with what Skidoo was doing. It's just super clean, super high-end parts, robots. I didn't expect that my first time when I went to the Skidoo factory. I expected like much, much smaller, and it's not. It's massive.
And then we went over to the race team shop, like the snowmobile race department, where they work on snowcross sleds, hill climb sleds, and we got to see. This is embargoed, so I can't really say a whole lot, but we got to see what's in the works for the hill climb factory team.
nice.
And that's pretty trick. There's some cool stuff in the pipeline there. I guess we can't really talk about anything specific to that. Nadine, did you guys go over to like the engine testing, the dyno room and all that?
No, we didn't get to do that, but I did think it was pretty cool. Like the race mechanic shop is like a garage, like you have this massive factory and then you kind of step into the little race department, just like dad and brother almost just putzing away on design and function. Like, I thought that was pretty cool.
I could imagine that though. I mean, that's like Jason Nethercott's corner.
That's what it felt like.
Like
walking into that
like let's
shop.
we got to put this guy who knows. He just knows it all, and then he's gonna work on it, develop it, and what comes out of there is gonna be magical because. That's just probably not something you can turn over to a full team or robot. They're a different breed for sure. So.
Well, and the race team just kind of gets to do their own thing, and it's like don't touch my toolbox.
Yeah,
Thing,
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, but the factory was one thing that I could see as we were going through the factory. Like Skidoo is a little bit different because they have two different frames, two different structures. I would say for mountain versus non-mountain. I could say like trail, crossover, touring, and all that.
Right.
I'll just call that non-mountain.
Okay.
They don't share the same chassis. It's so the Gen 5 mountain sled is its own thing. I mean, it's a mountain platform, and so, but being able to see that be assembled at the same time as an MXZ, and so you've got this different frame, different tunnel, different suspension, different track. Everything's different chain case. So one of the carts had all the chain case assemblies on it, but it's got one for the touring sled right next to one for the mountain sled, right next to one for the MXZ, and just how that all comes together, like we've discussed already.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Let's see. What else did you guys do separate from what our group did? Jeremy,
at the factory.
At the factory, or just the whole weekend. So we've kind of talked about the factory tour, the plant tour, design innovation,
The museum.
Oh yeah,
That's just awesome, man.
talk about that for a little bit.
Okay. That was my first time to the museum, and I could have spent the entire day there geeking out. They had, Ski-Doo's first snowmobile in 1959 hanging on the wall, which is pretty dang sweet. And, the old cars that he made, like the B-17 in his original garage, like that thing looked like it just rolled off the showroom floor. Just absolutely gorgeous. Some of the concept stuff in the museum was pretty cool, like the original Elite snowmobiles they made. One of them looked just like the Knight Rider from the TV show in the 80s. Like, it's hilarious. It really did. I don't know if you have a picture of it, Ryan, but that thing was pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere. And then they really tried a couple times at a side-by-side snowmobile.
Really?
Yeah. There were a few different iterations of that. And I think one was like a prototype that never made it into production. And then they actually went into production with, I think it's called an Elite.
Huh.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for a few years.
Like single track or like
no,
like
double track.
With skis?
Yeah. Yeah, two skis.
I think of a side by side with tracks or something like that. That's what I see in my head when you say.
No, it's like a golf cart with two tracks behind you and two skis in front of you, and like you and Rhett would be sitting there side by side, like elbowing each other and vying for the steering wheel.
That's funny.
But yeah.
And how about the original snow bike in that museum? That was pretty cool to see.
That was cool. What year was that?
I think you said 70s.
How about the fact that the original name was Ski Dog?
Oh, yeah.
Ski Dog.
Does anyone? I didn't even know that until, well, maybe I did know that and I forgot, but I just thought it was hilarious. So originally, like when they put out that first over snow, like mobile in 1959 or whatever, it was Ski Dog, and then they had the logo designer working on it, and he misread it, and so it came out as Ski-Doo, like the original little logo that's almost like triangular shape, and they saw it and they were like, oh, this is wrong, but we like it. It sounds good. Let's go with it. And like that was the original name, not Ski-Doo, it was Ski Dog.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Justin, we could be sitting here talking about the 2025 Ski Dog Turbo R. That does not roll off the tongue.
No, it doesn't.
I will say this about the museum.
I like it.
Nadine wants the Ski Dog back.
I kind of do. I think they should come out with a Ski Dog model.
You should do a rap, Nadine. Like your
Ski
personal
Dog
sled
rap.
should be a Ski Dog logo.
idea. Maybe I will. The other thing we got to do while we were there, which was pretty fun, was go test out the Switch. Like, we got to go do water sports for an afternoon, and it was so sunny and beautiful. And test out some Sea-Doos as well.
How was that? I didn't get to go on that. I was busy riding electric motorcycles.
How was that?
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about the Switch first.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We just pucked around on the lake, and everyone took turns on the Sea-Doos, and yeah, it's neat. Easy to drive, easy to park, easy to unload, easy to load. Cool little concept.
And that if I understand that market right, that's kind of born because the personal watercraft just got so flippin' big and expensive. Like turning into 3-seaters, and they were enormous and about as difficult to launch and trailer as a boat.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing's super light. You can like move around all the components of it to make it how you want it. You know, you can move all the benches and everything's movable. But it's, yeah, basically a big floating party boat that has a motor.
Yeah, so while you all were doing that out on the water, I was so going back to a couple short stories. Going back to the early 2000s, mid 2008, 9, 10, 11, somewhere around that area, when Skidoo came out with like the Skidoo XP. JF was it was a different guy over the snowmobile division as product manager, and his name was JF, and he has since moved on to different areas in the company. Now he's heading up the Can-Am electronic stuff, so electric motorcycles. This is all JF. So we get out there, or we're headed out there, and JF finds out that we're on our way, and he's like, "Hey, I want to put Ryan on one of these electric motorcycles." I'm like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't twist my arm to do that. So we rode the Can-Am Pulse, which is like a 47 horsepower motorcycle. It's more of a street cycle, like it's a little smaller package, and then we rode the Origin, which is I would say a dual sport adventure bike, ADV bike. That was really fun. That's more same power output, same battery capacity. These probably have like 90 to 100 miles of range, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
When we were on the Origin, which is the ADV bike, we did a little bit of dirt and not single track, but like narrow ATV trails.
Right.
Quebec has a lot of rolling hills, like
That's
bigger than I expected. I thought it'd just be flat, but they've got some mountains. Now we were pulling out pictures of the Tetons and be like, mountains.
Yeah.
There's the mountains. But we were back in the woods and cruising around on this thing. And it reminded me of just pedaling an e-bike.
Yeah.
You know, my Specialized Turbo Levo or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just so quiet.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So that's what I was doing while you guys were on the lake on the Switch.
Oh, that's fun. That would have been fun to give a try. What was the range on those things?
We did 70 miles, I believe.
Oh.
And
It's a pretty good ride.
I mean, we weren't anywhere near close to empty. It would depend on. That's the thing about EV stuff is it's hard to throw a range on it because if you just drove, if you got one of these motorcycles and you just drove from your house to downtown Idaho Falls every single day, you'd probably get 120 miles out of it.
Yeah, because you go on slow speeds, not under a lot of pressure. So
so if you go try to do a loop at Fall Creek, you're probably going to be like 50 miles.
Yeah,
just because it's so much vertical. But it was really cool. It'd be a fun little commuter bike for sure. If you're close enough to stuff that you can ride.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Nadine, what was your favorite part of the museum?
What is my favorite part of the museum? There's like obviously the room with all the old models in it is like overwhelming. It's so cool. And then also like they have Joseph Armand Bombardier's like old shop in there, and they give you the little virtual tour video thing. And it kind of brings you back in time to his inventor days when he was like a 15-year-old kid. And, they really, really support like the way the family and the community came together to like help this genius child like chase his dreams. And like you see that carried through into the factory today, where it's still a family atmosphere. And even being on the ambassador team, it's like a family atmosphere. We all take care of each other. But then another part of the museum that's kind of just really outside the box is it goes into like their light rail stuff and some of the other stuff they've developed as a like corporate company, Bombardier as a whole, and like some of the cool light rail stuff and aviation stuff they've done. Yeah, I agree with Jeremy. I could honestly spend like a whole day in that museum. It's a must do if you're ever out in that area.
So
Nadine, would you say like that's like bucket list for every sledder? Even if you don't even ride a ski-doo, I think it's worth visiting.
Yeah, it's a huge part of our history. It is the history of snowmobiling. So,
Yep.
100%.
Well, and that whole community is built around snowmobiling. Like there's snowmobile trails and signage everywhere you go. And everybody's familiar with it. We were in old Montreal at some little bake shop, and they had snowmobile signs. Like it was surprising to just come across that stuff. I wanted to jump back quick. We toured the engineering team building. Did you guys go through that as well? Like where Fred's office is, and I think that was I think that was a different area than where we met with all the engineering team people. But they have in this department, it's called an NVH team, which stands for noise, vibration, and harshness. And this is where the engine dynos are. And so they use these engine dynos to calibrate and counteract any vibration throughout the whole chassis. So what you feel in your feet, what you feel in your hands, what the engine does, the noise, all the noise specs that they have to meet, and all the noise control that they want to do, from exhaust to underhood noise to clutching noise, airflow. The Gem 5 has that cool little enclosure over the clutches. That thing's designed as a fan to flow air. So we got to sit there and watch engines on the dyno, and man, the dyno room they have 3 dyno rooms, and they're extremely high tech.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe what that would like. They have these windows that if anything happens, these windows just fall out and blow out. Like there's nothing like structurally holding them there.
Yeah.
So if something were to happen,
blow up,
that would go out rather than be contained in the room, and it goes down into a ventilation area. And they test exhaust systems there. They run engines to hours and hours, like hundreds of hours, just to watch wear and tear and everything. After that was all done, Nadine and Jeremy, when we came back and met with the engineering team leads and all of these people, 50 people in the engineering department, what I thought was very interesting, Justin, when we go to snowshoot, Skidoo in West Yellowstone always has that airplane hangar rented out, and tons of snowmobiles over there, and you just see people walking around all the time over there.
Yeah.
That's all these guys. So all these guys that work in Valcourt and live in Bromont, or not Bromont, but over there in Quebec.
Yeah.
Most of them have been out to West Yellowstone, and Skidoo's there for about 2 months, month and a half. Fred's out there with all of his engineering people, and most of those people have been to West Yellowstone, and they get to go there, they get to ride, they get to test and get on the snow, on mountain sleds, on everything else in the mountains. And we were talking about what are all these different teams, and I found my notes. We had written some of them down. So there's the chassis team, there's a suspension team. Pascal, he does an awesome job with dynamics. Exhaust team, intake team, bodyworks team, track team, engine team, CVT, fuel system, oil system, steering, brakes, electrical, connected vehicle, which is like the gauge and all of that. And then the external departments like calibration and noise, vibration, harshness. Like all of those teams work independently on their job and then assemble this. And that stood out to me to be very similar to Ford. Like Ford's Super Duty team, one of the top engineers on the Ford Super Duty team is a diehard snowmobiler. Name's David. He lives in Michigan. Skidoo, and he happens to be a Skidoo guy. And their process is just the same. So there's a team for like the cluster. There's a team for the steering wheel. There's a team for the seating. There's a team for engine, air intake, transmission, every aspect of that vehicle. And they all just do their own little job, and then it all comes together. And his job is to make sure that once it's assembled, everything works the way it should and talks to each other. And then, kind of go
meets
back
the
and
design specs from the original, I'm sure. And so that's got to be pretty valuable for those guys to come out and actually be on snow. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure inside a factory there's a lot of things that you can replicate and figure out, but it can't be the same as actually being on snow, temperatures, everything. So.
Well, but they were excited about it too, because see that brick wall there? That's the old part of the factory, the original factory. But yeah, so this team is excited because they get to go do what they design.
Yeah.
And not just in their backyard in Quebec. They get to go out to West Yellowstone. Yeah. And out to, I'm sure they go to Carl's place.
Yeah.
Up in Sycamoose. And I think most of them have been there as well. Skidoo owns an engineering department right next to Carl Cooster Mountain Park in Sycamoose.
They do testing there.
And they do a lot of high elevation calibration and testing there. Nadine, you probably go through there all the time.
Yeah, been there.
So just they're just on their game with all of this. All right. Anything else we haven't covered? Any thoughts you two want to add?
I think we kind of covered most of it.
Final thoughts on that, Nadine?
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, in my opinion, one of the best brands, and because it's so authentic, it's so family driven, and still, shines through in their factory and their team. And it was really fun being there with you. And I mean, I've got to go twice now, so I probably won't ever get to go back, but I sure hope I get to.
As an athlete and an ambassador, Nadine, do you feel like your feedback has made it into production in some way or another?
I definitely, they reach out a lot. Not every single thing I ask for gets put in, obviously, but I think they do really value our opinion and understand how much time we put on snow and put on these machines. So within reason, I think they do incorporate a lot of it in, but you got to make things fit. You're working with weights and you're working with engine power, and there's all kinds of factors that involve. So when you want to make one little change, it doesn't always necessarily mean it's a simple change.
No, but Skidoo does seem really good at collecting outside information from a lot of different sources. Like they are, and you can run into an engineering team and you can get this total vibe of just like, hey, we know what we're doing. We don't want to hear your opinion. Keep your mouth shut. We don't care. Skidoo will sit you down. We'll buy you dinner. We'll sit with you for hours and just say, what do you think?
And then generally think about and consider what you said rather than just because sometimes people say, what do you think? And you're like, yeah, that sounds great. Like I'm asking you to make you feel good, but I could care less,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally.
But no, I think they truly do care. So.
No, for years this is my 11th season with Skidoo, and I'm just blown away by how much they ask for our input all the time. And they do make the changes, but after seeing the factory, it's not super easy to make a change on the fly. It takes a lot of planning. It takes retooling and things like that. So sometimes those changes wait till the next generation sled, but they're always listening. They've been super good about that over the years.
That's great.
Yeah. So right now it's let's say it's almost November 2024. The 2026s, they're done writing those. I mean, those things they'll go do for final calibration and adjustments.
Right.
But those decisions have been made. They're working on Gen 6 and beyond.
Right.
Conceptualizing and testing, and they probably have Gen 6 prototypes built. And there were some rooms when we were over at Fred's office. There were some rooms that I was like, can we go in there, please? Nope. You cannot see what's behind that door. But that's several years out. That's another generation ahead. They're well ahead of what we're thinking. So when we say, man, why don't you do this next year? It's like, well, next year is done.
Yeah, next year's past.
But to that point, they still can. They still are at times able to step in and alter next year's production. I mean, they'll spend this year, take model year 2026, which will be released to the media December, January, to the public February.
Yeah.
And before that time hits, if they come across something, they'll go change it.
Yeah.
They're not locked in, but
yeah, I'm sure there's a fine line between, you don't want to get lost in future innovation too, because then you can't react fast enough to what's going on currently. But I'm sure there's a fine balance between those two, because you jump too quick. Sometimes you don't have time to test and make sure it works, and then you end up with problems. But
yeah. And I think that's why they rely on their mountain engineering facility up in Sycamoose. They spend a ton of time up there. They can ride. They've got access to high elevation, and then I know they go other places, Alaska, northern Canada, just wherever there's snow, to continue to validate into June, July.
yeah.
Other manufacturers go to South America in the summer, ship sleds down there, and go do some more validation and engineering and testing down there. The process is just overwhelming. Like, it's so much attention to detail, time and effort goes into building these machines.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, we're creeping up on an hour here. Thanks everybody for listening to this. Nadine, you want to add anything else? We good?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me on the show. It's been fun.
Yeah. Thanks for making time. Maybe we meet up somewhere out west and we go ride mountain sleds rather than keep on meeting in Quebec. Jeremy.
Yeah, let's go.
Jeremy, same for you. Yeah, we should hook up out west sometime, ride the mountains again.
I will be out there in February at some point, so I will definitely be giving you a ring, buddy.
Well, and you'll probably be out riding this afternoon as well. So go.
No, it's done. It was over from one. It's over. Next week.
Yeah. Well, you've got access to stuff up high there, pretty good in Colorado. But all right, thanks for your time, Nadine Overwater, Jeremy Mercier. Co-host here in studio, Justin Stevens. Been fun talking about Skidoo and this factory tour that we did last month, and I think that's somebody's sled right there.
Yeah.
We should have gone over there and put a mark on it so we could go find it on the snow, but we watched your snowmobile get built, and it was one of the coolest things I've seen in this industry in my life.
That's cool.
It was awesome. So, all right, thanks for coming on, everybody.